Hello, and good morning. We are about to get started. So, if you are looking for how to lead with confidence in times of change, you are in the right place. And I am so glad that you're here. I am, still getting this set up over here in the background and want to make sure that I can see your comments. Okay, so we're at about 10:01. I am hopeful that I will see some of you joining. I realize that for whatever reason, I cannot see your comments in here. So I will try to adjust that as we go. But again, I am so happy to be here. Hopefully, you guys can hear me. My microphone is on, and we are good to go. Okay, so with that, I know that you guys will come in and out as your schedules permit. So I am going to go ahead and get started. And let's see if, the technology gods are in my favor and I can get everything to work the way that I am hoping. So we are going to go ahead. I did create slides for you because it helps me keep on track in terms of the conversation that I want to have and make sure that in this short amount of time, I'm able to deliver something that you can actually walk away with and use after today's session. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I will end up, sharing some slides as we go, but really the bulk of the content is going to be in the discussion and in the conversation. So I know that some of you have been with me for a while and, might be active clients right now. Some of you, this is the first time you've been in a virtual or any type of space with me. So if we haven't met yet, I'm Bribiesca-Hedin. I'm the CEO and Principal Leadership and Executive Coach at Bridgewell Professional Services. Now, what I have for you today is a brand new session. So, just fair warning, it's not going to be perfectly polished, and I'm going to try to deliver as much value as possible in the time that we have. Now, I put this session together really because as I worked with clients in strategy execution, as I worked with clients in enterprise transformation, and as I work with clients now regularly who are in executive leadership, there's a common roadblock and stopping point for them being the, I guess if we want to channel Oprah, the kind of highest and purest expression of themselves professionally and their contribution. And it's nearly always self-confidence and self-doubt. Now, as a leadership coach, I focus a lot, and I do mean a lot, on what drives our decisions. And I do that because I know that better decisions create better results. And better leaders make better decisions, and vice versa, really. Better decisions also have that benefit of being the foundation to better relationships, to innovation, and even to peace of mind because you know that your decision is coming from a good and maybe a better word to use is intentional place. Now, I want to talk about self-confidence specifically because the lack of self-confidence is probably the biggest roadblock to making great decisions. And effective leadership comes from being intentional about how you make decisions, and in particular, in the midst of uncertainty, right? So, there are a few things that I've learned over the years, and this I know, without any doubt. And that is that to be effective at leading yourself and others, you do need to have real self-confidence, not pretend, right? Not on the outside, but actual self-confidence that informs how you make decisions, how you think, and how you lead. And I also know that anyone can learn to lead confidently, even in times of change. And finally, and this is probably the one that people have the hardest time with, it's that when you do it right, having real self-confidence is actually easier. It brings with it more success and brings with it more peace of mind than pretending to have self-confidence. And so we're going to be talking about all of that during this session today. So I'm going to go ahead and get my um, slideshow going. Okay, hopefully you guys will be able to see this and it will work as planned. So I know we already, talked about this and, the what I know for sure, the kind of channeling Oprah type of deal. So I'm going to continue from here. And hopefully you guys are seeing the right screen because at this point, to be honest, I'm not sure that I can see what you're seeing. So I'm actually going to take a quick look and confirm. That you guys can see what I think you can see. Oh, do you still not hear any sound? I see that I got some notes. Let's see. Can you guys give me a thumbs up? I can see your comments now. Okay, so you're not seeing my slides. You're just seeing the camera view. So let me see how I can fix that. Give me just a second. And thank you guys for being here. Now I see several of you. Like I said a moment ago, I couldn't see any of your comments. Okay, so sound is good, but there are no slides. Okay, so if I continue to have an issue with the slides, let's see. Okay, you guys, how's that looking? Can you guys see my screen? I know the slide is not up yet, but can you guys see my screen? Okay, someone is still saying that they can't hear me, but it looks like the rest of you guys can hear me. So, oh, okay, I see a thumbs up from Diane. Thanks so much for that. Okay, so we're going to try this again. You guys can actually see the screen, is that right? Okay, thank you. Now I'm going to try this again. I'm going to try and share my slideshow. And if I cannot, that's fine. It's not a whole lot of slides. And as I mentioned earlier, the content really is in the conversation. So we're going to go with it because, this is actually the foundation of why self-confidence is so critical, honestly. And I'm going to talk about this. This is actually part of the session, not this, tech hiccup, but that, self-confidence is what gets us through the moments that don't go according to plan, right? So when your tech doesn't work, when your connection fails, when your co-presenter doesn't show up, whatever the case happens to be, it's that self-confidence that gets you through the process of thinking, you know what, this doesn't look exactly the way that I hoped it might, but we're going to make this work because we can figure it out. And you're going to talk more about that and you're going to understand why that's the case. Let me get this slideshow up again and see if we can't make it work. Okay, you guys. I'm going to check with you one more time. How's this looking? Let me know about that slideshow. You should be able to see a slide that says what I know for sure without all of my notes and all of that stuff in the background. Once you give me a thumbs up, I'll go ahead and continue. And we have thumbs up. Yay. Thank you guys for your patience with that. Okay, and as I mentioned earlier, I know I've already gone through some of this. We talked about what I know for sure, and I wanted to start with those 3 pieces because I wanted to assure you that whatever it is that you're challenged by in terms of your self-confidence, in terms of how it's allowing you to show up or not allowing you to show up as a leader, it is manageable. It is manageable. And I'll be honest, it might not look the way you want it to, but as we go on, you'll understand why that's all right. So here's what we're going to be covering today, and we have a lot to cover. I tried to make this as succinct as possible, and I'll let you know how this is going to look. So we're going to start with talking about confidence versus self-confidence and why it's important. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, we're going to talk about the impact of low self-confidence and how that impacts your decision making. And that's incredibly important, again, as a leader, because you want to be certain that your decisions are aligned with what is actually important, not inadvertently derailed by what you're actually afraid of or trying to avoid, or where self-doubt might steer you. We're going to talk about why most people don't have self-confidence, and what you need to do what you need to start and to stop in order to increase your level of self-confidence. And then finally, how to implement what you learned today so that it changes how you lead going forward. And this is a lot of information to go through, but I want to start right now by talking about or hearing from you just briefly. Now that I can see your comments, let me know, how do you rate your self-confidence? Let me know how you rate your self-confidence. And if you're comfortable, you can go ahead and type a number in there from 1 to 10. You can give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, whatever it is that you're comfortable sharing. But even if you don't share, I want you to stop for a moment and consider, why did you give yourself this score? So just take a moment and consider, why did you give yourself this score? And again, you don't need to share in the chat, but I do want you to get present to it. Can I see some of your comments showing up here? Okay. Okay, I see a lot of 6s, some 7s. And again, you guys don't need to out yourselves. It is absolutely all right to keep this in your head. But I do want you to take that moment and connect with why you gave yourself that score. And the reason I ask that is because if you based your rating on what you've done well in the past, right? And what you feel good about trying again in the future because you had success in the past, then you're probably talking about confidence versus self-confidence. Let's see your comments. Okay, let's see. Oh, thank you, Ken. You're trying to step in and help Karen. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. Okay, and going back again, if your answer was dependent on it's something that you've done in the past and you have some evidence, right? There's something you've done, it's something you're familiar with. You now have some confidence because you have an idea of what that next step is going to look like. You've navigated that space before and you're confident that you can navigate it again. Then this is what I refer to as circumstantial confidence. It's not the same thing as self-confidence, because circumstantial confidence is, in fact, right, as you guessed it, dependent on the circumstance and whether it's something that you're comfortable with. Now, circumstantial confidence, of course, it's fantastic, right? Because it comes from experience. It comes from knowing that you've been there before and you have a reasonably good idea of how to manage it again. Here's the challenge with circumstantial confidence. it works really well when everything is going according to plan, right? When your slides show up, when your sound is working, when your numbers come in as you expected, and your productivity or patient satisfaction is where you wanted it to be. It's essentially a reaction or an extension to things working the way that you'd intended them to. And while it's always welcome, the kind of confidence that we want in order to be an effective and inspired leader, especially, absolutely, especially in times of change, is real self confidence. Because that's the confidence that comes from the inside out and is independent of evidence. And understanding this clears up why you might sometimes find that you feel so capable and so willing to lean in and bring your best in some situations, but absolutely not in others. Now, real self-confidence, as I mentioned, is independent of stability. It doesn't matter if there's change, if there's chaos. And having your ability to make decisions and lead effectively, be independent of the circumstances, means that you're not at the mercy of familiarity. You're not at the mercy of comfort. You're not at the mercy of past successes, at the mercy of evidence, etc. You get to make decisions from a place of knowing that you're going to rise to that challenge, right? It's all right if you don't know what the next step looks like. And effective leadership is the result of making great decisions that are driven by what you want versus what you don't. But when we're lacking that real confidence, especially in unfamiliar circumstances, oftentimes we go to making decisions not from what's possible, not from what we're intending, but from what we're trying to avoid and what we're actually afraid of. So real self-confidence is literally based on your ability to figure it out, whatever that it is, and to not turn it into some death sentence for yourself or for your self-esteem or for your sense of self-worth, um, because you failed miserably or because you fell flat on your face. You guys with me on that? It is making an intentional, deliberate decision that you can deal with whatever emotion and internal turmoil starts to surface and brew when things don't look the way that you expected them to. You know, and if you think about it for a second, and again, you don't need to share, because I know some of your stopping points might be more private than others. What would you do if fearing failure wasn't a thing? If that was absolutely not a part of your decision-making process? What would you do if a fear of failure was not a thing? And it was okay to, you know, have some fear and discomfort, or a lot of fear and discomfort, and do it anyway. If you'd made the decision that you're going to have your own back, and you are not going to, again, sentence your self-esteem to death because you had a setback or were embarrassed or whatever the case is, then what wouldn't you do, right? I mean, that's what it comes down to. What would you not do? So again, self-confidence, just to hammer it home, it comes with knowing you can handle whatever shows up and that you can figure it out, even if it's unpleasant, even if it's uncertain, even if you'd rather do anything else but that. Now, even if your best attempt, blows up in your face, you're not going to make it mean anything about you, anything about your self-worth, or anything about you that you shouldn't be trying to be up to big things. Because that is exactly what we do. So now we're going to continue the conversation talking about the impact of low or lacking confidence on your leadership effectiveness and decisions. So I want you to think of a moment where you might have approached a new or unfamiliar situation and felt like immediate comfort when you found something familiar or known about it. Can you guys just give me a thumbs up or a yes if that is something familiar? Like you stepped into a situation, it was incredibly uncomfortable, but then you found something familiar and you felt immediate comfort. So that's because we find real comfort in knowing, again, as I mentioned earlier, what comes next. So our confidence in this case is tied to knowing with some certain level of clarity what that next move needs to be. But when the next move is unclear, this is when, we fall into turmoil. This is when we start to fall apart. And, for those of you who, in your organizations or on your teams, you're in the midst of change, you can certainly, give me a thumbs up if this sounds familiar to you. But when the next move is unclear, this is what I've seen. Again, decade and a half, and, between consulting, strategy, execution, enterprise transformation, executive coaching. But what's typical is underperformance, frustration, like no progress, incredibly bad attitudes and fragile egos, infighting, and unfortunately, a lot of pretending. That all of that, right? Because there is this discomfort and lack of certainty. And the other and really important thing that happens is that you might even start to make progress in spite of all of that uncertainty, but only to be immediately derailed as soon as there's a road bump. And in some cases, an experience of complete paralysis when it comes to making decisions and leading yourself and others forward through that change. Now, this is also when we see, again, I mentioned fragile egos, the ones who are dependent on the constant validation, on getting it right, on the affirmation, those start to crumble. Now, these are all capable leaders, so I don't mean to frame this, right, as though these are folks who were incapable or just hanging on by a string. It's simply that uncertainty has a way to mess with our brains, right? It takes us out of that comfort zone. And, if you guys have gone to any sort of conversation or discussion on kind of human performance or motivation, you know that there are really three things going on at the same time with our brains, right? Our brains want to seek enjoyment or comfort. They want to avoid pain or discomfort, and they want to do it with the least energy possible, right? Our brains are intended to be incredibly efficient. So they make these almost automatic decisions for us in order to be, safe, in order to keep us processing very quickly. The challenge is, again, that when you get into the space of discomfort, sometimes our brains misinterpret that. So this is why so many leaders get stuck with that dreaded, we've always done it this way. Like, I don't want to change. We've always done it this way. And darn well that that leader, that team member, that board member knows that this change is critical to the future. Like, you absolutely know that. So, I want you to think about it. The reason that we venture into change, we have a lot of enterprise leaders here, and the reason that we venture into change is because of the promise of what's possible with what's next after that change, right? We know there's something next, something possible, but there is always going to be something next. And so, this is why it is so important and critical that leaders are able to generate self-confidence in the face of uncertainty and insecurity and self-doubt and chaos. And this is also why most people don't have self-confidence. But I'm going to break this down a little bit more. So, just to share on a personal level, I certainly didn't always know how to create self-confidence. So what did I do? I did the typical things that we do. I did well in school. I took on leadership roles. In fact, I was class president back at my MBA program at USC, and I'm pretty sure that I either got the highest or second highest starting salary when I started as a management consultant with the consulting firm that I joined. And after that, it didn't stop. I kind of kept amassing credentials and certifications and recognition. But here is the thing. All that did was make me question and doubt myself even more at a higher level. And it had me wonder why it didn't magically work to solve my confidence problem, to have me feel the level of self-esteem and self-assurance that you would think I had when you looked at my resume. Does that resonate with anybody? You guys, if that resonates, give me a quick thumbs up, right? Where your outward confidence doesn't reflect what's actually going on inside, right? No wonder we have an epidemic of imposter syndrome when what we are doing is trying to pretend to project a feeling that we're not actually feeling. That takes an incredibly serious toll. So again, if you recognize this cycle, and or that you went through your own type of cycle, why do you think that the credentials, more credentials, higher salary, bigger teams, bigger title didn't fix my messed up self-confidence? What do you guys think about that? Why didn't fix my messed up self-confidence? And you guys can feel free to share. I'll see if I can see your comments in time, but I do want you to give that some thought. And here is what I have concluded. Because amassing credentials to address shaky confidence, it's like dropping your keys in your garage, but deciding that you're going to go look for them over in the driveway because the lighting is better, because it's more convenient. That is not where to find what you're looking for. And the takeaway here is that you can't take external action to address an internal struggle. Like looking for the keys in the garage because it's well lit. I'm not in the garage, but we're out in the driveway because it's well lit and more comfortable and easier to access and convenient. You actually have no chance of finding what you're looking for. I mean, it pretty much guarantees, right, that you're going to fail. So we cannot take external action to address an internal struggle. You have to go where the fight is, right? We need to go where the fight is. And that fight is, unfortunately, internally in how we make decisions and how we think about the challenges at hand. Are you guys with me on that? I mean, but give me a quick hand raise. And Deidre, I see that you said that's a hysterical analogy, but is it not true? And in fact, I have a friend who refers to it as going to the hardware store looking for milk and then leaving pissed off that they didn't have it, right? But that is exactly what we do. That's exactly what we do when we take this bogus external action and activity and credential building in order to address that misalignment, that gap that's going on inside with our self-confidence. Next, I want to go on to, I'm kind of trying to keep an eye on the time here, what you need to do to start and stop doing. And hopefully this one is relatively straightforward. Now, we know that we can't take external action to address internal struggle, right? So hopefully I drove that one home. And we can't do more to create self-confidence. Again, that's not how that works. Because if you haven't noticed, again, imposter syndrome, that feeling that you're not enough and about to get found out, which is talked about everywhere, and that it's its own type of epidemic. It does not get better with success and accomplishment, as I mentioned in my personal experience. In fact, the more success you have, the more and the bigger the self-doubt and the discomfort and the pretending becomes. It has the opposite effect that most people expect. So again, I think a lot of you said that you can relate to this. Feel free to give me a thumbs up if that's the case. But I do want you to understand that it's a little bit counterintuitive, or maybe a lot counterintuitive. You cannot try to look better, try to appear better, or try to be perceived better to feel better. So I'm going to go on. Hopefully I've hammered that one appropriately. But I mentioned that we need to go where the fight is and to stop avoiding the discomfort of not knowing what's next or how it's going to go or whether everyone's going to agree with us. The access to self-confidence and really any other sort of growth, if you think about it, is being willing to tolerate the discomfort of self-doubt. Right? We've all heard this, right? There is no growth without discomfort. I don't think there's anybody here who hasn't heard that, and yet we don't internalize it. We're like, yeah, that's a great saying, but we don't internalize it. And in fact, when I start working with new one-on-one executive coaching clients, self-confidence, as I mentioned at the beginning, and self-doubt, they're the two biggest roadblocks, right? To their potential, to their being able to express what they're trying to create in their professional worlds. Now, I've been working, as I mentioned, with professionals from board executives to interns, decade and a half, to help them define how they're going to deliver on their top priorities. And what's interesting is that at every single level, doesn't matter how much accomplishment they have, when they feel doubt or uncertainty, so many take it as a sign that they shouldn't be trying something new, that they shouldn't be taking action, that they shouldn't be aspiring to more and should stop. And it's funny because nothing could be farther from the truth. And when you know that discomfort is what happens when you're up to something new or something big, and it's how you get to create something new for yourself, then you know that it doesn't make sense to stop simply because there's some discomfort or doubt there, right? No growth without discomfort. I think of it as, you know, expecting to take on some action or effort that's worthy of your team, worthy of your organization, worthy of your cause, without feeling self-doubt, expecting to do that without feeling self-doubt is like trying to do like a high intensity workout without sweating, right? Or worse yet, when you start to sweat, you assume that there's something wrong and you stop and abandon the entire thing. You wouldn't do that, you guys, right? We would not do that. And you wouldn't do that because you know that you would never reach your goals. But that is exactly what we do professionally. That's exactly what we do as leaders. We get pushback, we get resistance, we feel the discomfort that comes with that. We're like, okay, maybe this was a bad idea. That is not what makes it a bad idea. Now, as long as you're human and still breathing, self-doubt is supposed to be there. If you're up to anything, self-doubt is supposed to be there. What we need is to stop doing is allowing self-doubt to be a signal to stop taking action. That is the single biggest takeaway. I need you to stop taking self-doubt or, fear that things might not go according to plan as a signal that you need to stop or turn around. That is not what that means. All that it means is that you're alive and you're still breathing. Again, there is no learning. There is no innovation. There is no impact. There's no leadership if you're not willing to be with self-doubt. And, again, going back to the workouts, if you're only willing to do the workouts that don't make you sweat, there is no opportunity for conditioning, right? There's no opportunity to build muscle. Self-doubt is not your enemy. I want everybody to repeat that with me. Self-doubt is not your enemy. It is not. It is not a sign from your gut to stop. It is not. It just means you're alive. You have a working brain. So hopefully you guys got that. So what do you need to do? What you need to do is redefine your relationship with self-doubt and keep it from being what's driving your decisions. So that instead, and this is the mind blower, your decisions can be driven by your intention, by your purpose, by what you actually want, by your strategic plan. It can be on purpose. And so as a result, you're actually going to create results and progress and momentum on the things that matter, as opposed to being redirected by things that don't. So this is absolutely a necessary component of creating self-confidence. It's absolutely critical. Now, when it comes to implementing this in your life, at work, any place that you want to be able to lead with confidence, I showed you a piece, but there's work that comes before and after it. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what that looks like, because this is what's necessary to redefine your relationship with doubt and failure and make decisions based on intention so that your leadership can be driven by intention versus being driven by fear or ego or what happened and went wrong last time or anything like that. So I'm going to give you some context in a bigger picture using a framework that I use with my clients. So I don't think this built. I think it was supposed to have built piece by piece. So you guys bear with me and stay with me in the column that I'm referring to. First of all, everything starts with values. Okay, this is the vital framework that helps my clients understand how to begin to address the things that aren't going according to plan. Now, as you hear the descriptions, I want you to try to keep a mental note of where you might want to begin to invest your time to grow your leadership effectiveness and your self-confidence. Now, with me, I think it's critical that you always start with values, right? So every one of my clients, no matter what they come to me for, everyone starts with values. And this is about what's important to you, how that guides your beliefs and your behaviors, and of course, your decisions. That if it's not handled, what you'll see is that your results and your progress don't match what you say your priorities are. Okay. So if you're finding that you're frustrated because your results and your progress aren't matching your priorities, this is the first place to look. And you also will want to spend some time here if you panic every time there's a change in circumstance or something doesn't go according to plan, because there's no North Star guiding your decisions. Okay, I'm going to go through these really quickly. The next step are the intangibles. And these, to be clear, these are sequential. Always start with values. The next step are the intangibles, and that's your inner work. So I like to break that down as the intangibles are, they are your self-awareness, your self-esteem, your self-confidence, the actual intention behind your actions, right? Not what you were pretending your intention to be, but the actual intention behind your actions. Now, when these are not handled, that keeps your actions from landing the way you'd hoped. You feel like there's always more to do, like there's more certifications to get, more credentials to get, more consultants to hire, more training to do, more seminars to attend, etc., but you're not actually seeing the outcome that you wanted. It feels like you're doing all of the right things, but missing out on the results. And that is a direct result of the intangibles. Then we go on to the tangibles. So the tangibles are they're the how-tos. Those are, the leading practices, the training, the steps. They're actually understanding the process and the knowledge that needs to go into what you're doing. When this is not handled, we're probably all familiar with this. You feel like there are a lot of roadblocks and there's a lot of rework, a lot of false starts. But you also don't know when it's time to take action because you just keep on consuming knowledge, hoping that you'll get this, elusive sense of certainty if you consume enough knowledge, right? On to advanced competencies. So these are really at the foundation of your leadership competencies. So you can see that the model is broken down into leading yourself and then leading others. And here is where we focus on your ability to lead others. It's still obviously squarely focused on you. But here you'll spend time on defining the results that you want to create, both individually and as a leader. This is also where I work with clients to create their individual strategic plans as well as failure plans, because you can't have success without having planned for failure. And we're very deliberate about this. And this is also where you learn to cascade and align your intentions and your goals and your changes with your team. And when this isn't handled, what you'll see or experience is that your team or colleagues, they don't understand their impact on the bigger picture. They won't know why it's important, right? That you do what you do or that this change be implemented. You'll probably experience this as a lack of motivation, a lack of initiative, a lack of critical thinking, a lack of, again, engagement. It feels like you're having an incredibly hard time getting buy-in. Then we go on to leadership style. This is not only, your textbook leadership style, like if you're, participative or or authoritative or whatever the case is. But, you will discover that as well, and you need to discover that as well. But this is really what you value in other leaders and how you want to let that inform the kind of leader you want to be. And this is also where you understand and get clear on what you are and are not willing to develop in yourself and help others develop. And I know that's a funny thing to think about, what you're not willing to help others develop. But one of the single biggest sources of frustration among experienced leaders is feeling like they're spending time on what they consider to be a lack of common sense or lacking basics with their team. If these are not handled, right, if your leadership style, if you're not crystal clear on that, you're consistently frustrated, disappointed, and second guessing your ability to both communicate what you need and get what you need from other people. And you believe that you're horrible, like absolutely horrible at hiring the right people or joining the right companies or picking the right clients. You will assume that you have just some sort of lack when it comes to that area. Now, I'm going to ask you questions. So you guys can go ahead and open up the chat or, put your hands on the keyboard. And here it is. As you heard me go through those, and again, I went through them quickly, but hopefully that was enough, meat to give you something to respond to. Which factor would you say best reflects your leadership challenge? Which one of those components best reflects your leadership challenge or where you'd want to invest energy? Now, go ahead and share that in the chat. And then just to note, right, this is a reminder, whatever that factor is, it still all begins with values. This is sequential. And in fact, the not approaching this sequentially is often why people fail at self-confidence. So the biggest tripping point, it's not even handling the intangible. It's let me make sure I say this clearly for you guys. The biggest roadblock to bringing self-confidence to fruition and to becoming the type of leader you intentionally and deliberately want to be, and that can help move you and your people through the change, is thinking that you can address the to-dos without addressing the internal work. That is the single biggest roadblock to being able to create a true and deliberate, sense of confidence, and to really be able to see it manifested in how you lead and the impact that you have. And I know that sounds incredibly simplistic, but implementing in this methodical way where you've actually gone where the fight is, right? Like I said at the beginning, and addressed that, that internal haziness before you go on to start taking actions will make all the difference. And here is something that might feel familiar. When people don't do this, when people are pretending to have one intention when in fact they have another, the vibe you get from them is that of a used car salesperson. You guys know what I mean when I say that? Like, you might even think, okay, it seems like they're saying all the right things. It seems like they're doing all the right things, but I'm just not feeling it. Something is not landing. And that's what that is. It's that misalignment between what they're saying they mean or they're doing there and what they're actually doing there. Okay, you guys, so we are actually at time. We've covered a lot, but I still have another few minutes. So if you guys can bear with me, that is fantastic. But I want you to think about what it'll look like when you put this into action and how you're going to put energy and accountability behind changing your relationship to doubt and to certainty and even to failure, so you can shift how you show up as a leader. So, I said at the beginning that, and actually I meant to say at the beginning, I suspect that for some of you, all you needed to hear was what you heard today. And you know exactly already the steps that you need to take to bring that level of self-confidence and to implement some sort of similar framework into your leadership development, into your growth, to really transform how you lead, right? And to bring it to fruition. So for some of you, you are ready, and that's all you needed to hear. Now, for some of you, you already know you want more, and I want to let you know about 2 ways that you can work with me. Now, it is no secret. This is absolutely what I want for every single one of you, because I see the magnificent things that my clients create when we work together. When they get really aligned with who they are, what's important to them, and their real self-confidence, right? When it's no longer circumstantial. So there are 2 ways that we can work together. And the first that I hope you'll all attend is open to everyone, all levels, all genders. It's my Leadership Confidence Intensive coming up December 11th and 12th. And it is 2 days, and I'll tell you a little bit about it here. Here, briefly, on day 1, that's Saturday, December 11th, we're going from 9 to 1, same on day 2. Here are some of the things that we're going to cover: how to go from failure to self-confidence, and you'll learn how to think like a leader. It is going to change how you make decisions. And this is a great place to start. Like, we're diving in the deep end, but it's going to inform the rest of the weekend and how you're able to apply it. Then we're going to go on to, again, values, revisit a little bit of the confidence and self-confidence conversation, but this will be with the intention of permanently shifting how you make decisions and how to get back to those intentional decisions. You're going to actually create a failure plan while we're together, because I mentioned as we were talking that, no successful strategy or plan can exist without a failure plan. And yet we have this really strange relationship with failure where, if we don't look, it doesn't exist. That's not how that works, but that is, you guys probably are familiar with that and have heard about that. Day 2, we're going to create a judgment-free zone within your head. Now, this is where you're going to learn to stop judging yourself, to stop judging others, and why this makes you literally irresistible to work with, right? Because how good does it feel to be with someone who has no chip on their shoulder and is just being with you, right? And just being for you. And anyway, I don't want to spend too much time on any of these. I just want to give you a glimpse. Then we're going to go on to Obliterate imposter syndrome. Here's where you learn not only what you're doing that fuels the imposter syndrome, because there's a lot out there and there's a lot of really bad advice out there, but also how to make it stop. And then my favorite part, it's called managing in. And this is how to stop doing more and still finding yourself able to make more progress on your goals, right? This managing in, I love this segment and the exercises that go along with it. In addition, I do have some special bonuses. This is the first time that I am doing this weekend. I suspect I'm going to do this hopefully once a quarter, but this is the first time that I'm offering this weekend. And I know that the price is not even up here, but I wanted to include some bonuses because obviously those of you who are joining for the first time, there might be a bumpy ride, but it's going to be magnificent either way, right? So as a gift for being along for that bumpy ride, there's a significant discount on this weekend. So the price was originally $997, and that is what it's going to be in future weekends. This kind of launch weekend, it's $497 for the full program. But I wanted to throw in some amazing bonuses to make it a no-brainer, so that you don't hesitate. There's going to be a live group accountability session that I'm going to host a month after the event. It's going to be, it says 60 minutes, but we might need to make it 90 minutes depending on how many people attend, so that we can review your results, your wins, and we can actually do some live on-the-spot coaching. You're also going to get access to, and again, you guys who've been with me for a while, you know that the Bad Boss Breakthrough Solution is my online course that I created a couple of years ago. It's my on-demand training program. And that is the course that I created to help people reclaim their, confidence, their earning power, their sanity after having a toxic work experience. It is incredibly good work. And a lot of people have been able to benefit from it. And that sells separately for $497. I'm including it here because I haven't been actively marketing that. But you are going to get that as a gift for attending both days. And then in this beta, you're also getting an additional bonus, and that is a free 30-minute one-on-one private coaching session with me. Now, this is not a discovery call. This is not a consultation. This is a deep dive discovery session with me. Not discovery session, I'm sorry, coaching session. So let me clarify that. This is a 30-minute coaching session with me, not discovery. This is not about any of my products. This is not about working with me. This is just coaching you on a top priority. And then finally, I needed to throw in there a guarantee because you guys are taking a risk. And again, this is the first time we're doing this. Attend the morning session. If you feel like you're not loving it, you're not receiving value from it, ask for a refund. There are no questions asked, and we will part friends. But I just would love the fact that you were there and at least wanted to take a look. And you can go ahead and enroll now. If you're interested, go to bridgewellpro.com. Now, I said there were 2 ways of working with me. And so, of course, I'm an executive leadership coach, and I work with women one-on-one. Now, if you're an accomplished professional woman and you're frustrated because you really are doing all the right things, but not seeing the results you intended, then definitely schedule time with me. And, let's explore working together. And during this session, just to give you some perspective so you're clear what we do in this discovery session or leadership growth assessment session, however you want to think about it, is we're going to explore one of your biggest challenges and the best next steps to address them. I'm going to use a framework that I use to help distinguish where you can divert some of that energy and how I suggest you get there. Now, if your challenges and my services line up, then I'm going to give you options on how we can work together further. Okay, I think that is everything. So let me see if I can get back here to you guys. Okay, now we are already over time, but I am glad to stay here for any questions that you have. And if if you are a brave soul and want to get some individualized coaching right here live on LinkedIn, I am glad to do that as well. If you just have a question that you want coaching on, feel free to share that as well. So you guys, any question for me? And I'm sorry, Betsy, I just saw your question. It is Pacific time zone. So that is Pacific. If you go to that enrollment page, it'll hopefully I did specify the time zone. So thank you for asking. But it is 9 a.m. It starts at 9 a.m. Pacific, ends at 1 p.m. Pacific, both Saturday and Sunday. And I guess that's 12 o'clock Eastern to 4 o'clock Eastern, if I got that correct. Okay. And the cost of the training is $497. So that is this weekend. And I want to clarify that because I know I didn't put the price up. I don't want there to be any hard feelings because the next time it's offered, it is going to be $997. But again, this is that beta weekend. I'm going to see how this goes and make it as fabulous as I can and put all of that energy into it. That is a lot that we're going to do over 2 days. So I might need to make some adjustments and ask for some flexibility from you. But I'm going to do everything in my power to keep it within those 4 hours and give you at least, the value that I promised, if not much more. So again, $497. Okay, are there any other questions that I can answer, whether it's about the weekend, whether it's about any of the content we covered today? Again, I'll stay on here as long as you guys want to chat about it. I think I'm actually free for the next 35 minutes. So not that I'm going to keep you that long, but if you would like to stay, if you'd like to ask questions, if you'd like to have some live feedback or coaching, please go ahead and chime right in. Sorry, I see comments coming in through different areas and wanted to see if I'm missing anything. Okay, thank you so much for coming, Shishi. So nice to see you here. Okay, you guys, if there are no questions, I'm going to go ahead and bid you farewell. Again, self-doubt is not your enemy. You can't take external action to address an internal struggle and create the accountability that you need for yourself, right? Go implement, go make this happen, go make this work for you. Because the cost of not handling your self-confidence as a leader is that, given that we know that confidence doesn't show up in times of change, right? It's self-confidence that you need. Because you have no evidence, then the problem that we run into is that when you need it most, when your team needs it most, that self-confidence is not there to inform your leadership. And that is absolutely critical, because I can tell you in my years with enterprise transformation, strategy execution, management consulting, and as a project manager, right? The takeaway I want you to have there is that what you need to get good at is being effective in the midst of chaos. And I know that is a funny thing to say, but you guys, for a lot of you, that probably resonates, and you know exactly what I mean. We need to be effective at leading ourselves and others and making intentional, deliberate decisions, even in the midst of uncertainty, doubt, failure, road bumps, bad tech, bad bosses, bad teams, bad strategies, etc. We need to be able to inform our decisions based on what we want versus based on what we're afraid of, or what the uncertainty that's sitting there and making us uncomfortable. Okay, you guys, thank you so much for being here. I hope this content has been absolutely helpful. I hope you guys run with it, do some amazing things. If you haven't already, please do connect with me here on LinkedIn. And I will see you next time. Hopefully I'll get better every time I do one of these lives and figure out how to make it look the way I want it to look. Okay, everyone. Have a good day.